The group arrives in the mining town of Everytime, with Tia eagerly observing her surroundings. She excitedly asks about the town's name, prompting Ed to answer with a smile. Everytime. Tia is thrilled to explore, while Alexis, stepping off the carriage, shows a more complicated expression, his face reflecting an unease about the place. The conversation quickly shifts to the long-awaited treasure that Ed has promised. Tia eagerly asks about it, having been curious ever since Ed's cryptic words, "You'll see when you get there." Ed reassures her that they'll discuss it at the inn, a suggestion that garners agreement from the rest of the group. As they walk through the town, Tia comments on the many chimneys in the distance, speculating they might indicate a town full of blacksmiths. However, Ed quickly dispels this notion, explaining that Everytime is primarily a silver mining town, and the local blacksmiths mainly make tableware, not weapons. Tia's imagination runs wild as she suggests that perhaps the treasure is some kind of legendary tableware that could enhance the taste of food. Her enthusiasm contrasts with Ed's more measured tone as they continue their journey. Along the way, Gonzo, the old man in their group, teases Tia about her excitement, calling her a long-lived elf, and even humorously suggesting that she might find treasure in the form of magic-infused tableware. Their banter lightens the mood, and Tia continues to dream up ideas about what the treasure might be. After some light-hearted exchanges, the group arrives at their inn. It's clear that this is no luxury establishment, but it's the best the town has to offer. Once inside, Alexis presses Ed for an explanation, eager to understand why they've traveled all this way. Ed begins to speak slowly, revealing the crucial information he's been holding back. The silver mines of Everytime are inhabited by rockworms. These dangerous mineral-eating creatures are rapidly destroying the mines, creating hazardous holes and causing frequent collapses. If left unchecked, the mine will collapse entirely within 3 months. By the time Ed had first visited the town 6 months prior, it had already been abandoned by those who had lost their jobs and livelihoods due to the destruction caused by the rockworms. Alexis reacts with surprise and skepticism, questioning whether Ed can truly trust his source. But Ed remains confident, explaining that the rockworms are indeed using the silver mines as a feeding ground. However, revealing the full extent of the threat could cause chaos and panic in the town, so he decided to keep the information secret until now. This cryptic strategy is meant to ensure that they can deal with the creatures directly and avoid alarming the townspeople unnecessarily. The conversation then shifts to the subject of mythril, a magical and highly coveted material. Alexis, catching on to the implications of Ed's words, mutters bitterly about the potential connection between the rockworms and mithril production. Ed is quick to explain the science behind mithril, much to Tia's confusion. He elaborates that mithril is a mutation of silver that occurs when it's exposed to powerful magical forces for long periods. Tia, still somewhat lost, wonders if all the silver in the mines could have turned into mithril due to the presence of the rockworms, which would make it highly valuable. Ed reveals that the rockworms are key to the process. While these creatures consume ore, not all of the material is absorbed. What remains is continually bathed in the rockworms' mana as it remains in their bellies. Over decades, this undigested ore slowly turns into mithril. This revelation shocks Tia, who struggles to process the idea that mithril, a material used in powerful weapons, could be the result of rockworms' digestion. Ed tries to explain further, though the reality is difficult for Tia to accept. The treasure they've come to find isn't just mithril, it's the pure mithril produced from the rockworm's excrement. This mithril is incredibly rare and valuable, a byproduct of the creature's digestion that can never be replicated in a regular mine. Tia, horrified by the thought, immediately recoils, not wanting to accept such a grotesque truth. She exclaims in disgust, unwilling to even think about using something so unpleasant for crafting weapons. Despite her protests, Ed is resolute. He sees this mithril as essential for their future battles, especially with the looming threats they'll soon face. He reassures her that the weapons they forge from it will be powerful enough to tip the balance in their favor. Tia, however, remains unconvinced. She doesn't want to wield weapons made from something so vile. In a mix of humor and sincerity, Ed promises to craft the best weapon for her, though Tia is far from excited about the prospect. Meanwhile, Alexis, who is less bothered by the origins of the mithril, remarks that a weapon made from pure mithril would significantly enhance one's strength. He seems more than willing to accept the material, even if it's a product of rockworm digestion. The contrast between Alexis's calm demeanor and Tia's distress adds a comedic touch to the scene. Tia, still in shock, insists that she can't possibly wield a poop weapon and begs Ed not to go through with it. However, Ed is firm in his decision, joking that if they're going to be ready for what lies ahead, they need the strength that these weapons can provide. Tia's continued protests are met with laughter from Gonzo, who dismisses her discomfort, focusing instead on the immense power that mithril-infused weapons could offer. As Tia reluctantly accepts the reality of their situation, the group prepares to face the rockworms in the mines, knowing that this strange and repulsive treasure may be the key to their survival. In the end, Tia's emotional reaction, combined with Ed's resolve, sets the stage for the group's next step in their journey. As they prepare to enter the mine and confront the rockworms, it's clear that this treasure, no matter how uncomfortable the truth, could make all the difference in the battles to come. Tia and Gonzo engage in a playful yet strained argument, with Tia complaining about the uncomfortable nature of their current task, while Gonzo insists she's not doing enough. Meanwhile, Ed, holding a map in one hand and utilizing his Akashic compass in the other, reassures Alexis that they're on the right track despite the ongoing bickering. Ed had previously shared the existence of the Akashic compass with Alexis and the others, and its magical ability to detect the location of magical beasts made it an essential tool for their mission. However, Ed had kept his auto-mapping ability hidden, recognizing the potential dangers of revealing such a powerful skill. Alexis, now more confident in their mission, orders the closure of the mine for the day, ensuring the workers are evacuated. The authority he carries as a hero is impressive to Ed, but there's also the added caution about protecting their valuable skills from falling into the wrong hands. As the group ventures deeper into the mine, they navigate with ease, knowing their destination and the low likelihood of encountering any surprise threats. But soon, they hit a dead end, and Tia playfully mocks Ed, wondering if he plans to dig a hole to reach the rockworms. Gonzo, ever eager to show off, jokingly offers to use his muscles to dig, but Ed's plan is far simpler. With a grin, he kicks the rock face, and though the impact seems futile at first, the vibration reverberates through the mine, signaling that they've triggered something. Suddenly, a massive rockworm emerges from the ground, its gaping mouth ready to strike. Gonzo steps forward, taking the brunt of the worm's ferocious bite, while Alexis and Ed spring into action. With swords drawn, they swiftly attack the rockworm, plunging their blades into its body. The chaos is intense, but Tia quickly takes charge, channeling her powerful magic to finish the beast off. She summons the volcanic lancer, a fiery spear of spirit magic that pierces through the rockworm's mouth, burning it from within. Despite the powerful magic, the rockworm is still alive, though significantly weakened. It attempts to retreat into the earth, but Ed isn't about to let it escape so easily. With a bold and reckless move, Ed jumps into the rockworm's mouth, disregarding Tia's concerned call. Inside, he activates his Hermes dash and fights his way through the creature's flesh, ultimately reaching a critical point where he uses his blood sword refinement technique to strike a fatal blow. The rockworm's movements stop and Ed stands victorious, though he remains alone inside the smelly, monstrous beast. As Ed tends to his wound and heals with his banishment skill, he reflects quietly on his victory, having killed the rockworm from within and secured the team's success. Though the battle was intense and gruesome, it was another step closer to their goal, undoubtedly a challenging and unpleasant job, but one that Ed, with his skills and determination, had been more than ready to face. After Ed emerges from the belly of the rockworm, Tia is furious with him for his reckless actions. She questions why he would take such a dangerous risk, but Ed explains that his knowledge of Tia's magic and the rockworm's anatomy gave him confidence that the beast wouldn't collapse the tunnel. His focus was on ensuring that the massive hole left by the worm wouldn't cause a landslide, which made the risky move worth it. With the battle over, Ed triumphantly reveals his prize, a massive lump of pure mithril he obtained from the rockworm. While Alexis is impressed, Tia expresses disbelief that such a small chunk could come from such a huge creature. Ed explains that while unprocessed mithril may not fetch a high price, it's extremely valuable due to its rarity and potential uses. He explains that with proper connections, this mithril could buy a castle or even more. Tia, in awe, is surprised by its worth, and Ed uses the moment to chat with Alexis about how to process the mithril. Rather than relying on outside help, Ed insists on processing the mithril himself, revealing that he has blacksmithing experience. Alexis, though surprised, agrees to help him rent a workshop, leveraging his own connections. The group arrives at the small but well-maintained workshop, and Ed is given free rein to use the facility. The owner of the workshop, grateful for the group's efforts in defeating the rockworm, offers the space without charge, as it's seen as a small price to pay for preventing a catastrophe. Tia, ever curious, watches Ed as he begins his work with the mithril. Despite her initial concerns, she decides to stay and observe, even though Ed warns her it might be too hot for comfort. Ed explains the delicate process of working with mithril. Too much heat would cause it to vaporize, and too little would result in an uneven melt. Without a magic furnace to regulate the temperature, he relies on his skills to control the heat manually. As Ed begins the process, he reflects on his motivations. He's determined to craft a weapon that will shape their future and ensure that he never loses his friends again. With each strike of the hammer, Ed pours his heart and soul into the work. Despite the challenges, his hands remain steady, driven by the memory of Tia's smile, the last time he saw her smile before everything changed. He's not simply forging a weapon, he's forging a future where he can protect those he cares about. Throughout the process, Tia remains by Ed's side, watching his every move. Ed, though focused on his work, feels the weight of the memories and the importance of the task at hand. As the molten mithril begins to take shape, Ed's resolve hardens. He won't cut corners, no matter how long it takes or how many times he must strike. This weapon will be the one that alters their fate, and he's determined to create the strongest, most reliable tool he can, a symbol of his commitment to his friends and their future together. In the quiet of the workshop, Ed hammers away, driven by a purpose deeper than any of his previous battles. The work is grueling, but with each stroke, he moves closer to completing the weapon that will define their destiny. Tia reflects on the experience of watching Ed forge weapons in the workshop for 6 days. At first, the sound of Ed's hammering was jarring to her ears, but over time, she grew to appreciate it, even likening it to joyful music. The rhythm of his work resonated with her, filling her with fascination and a sense of nostalgia. She watched Ed with admiration, curious about how a boy so young could possess such skill and tools. His work captivated her, and even though she didn't fully understand his process, she found herself enthralled by the sound of the hammer and the steady progress of his craft. As Ed finishes his work on the 6th day, Tia asks what he's created. Ed, exhausted but satisfied, reveals that he's made several weapons, and they head to Alexis's room to show off the results. The first item is a pair of gauntlets designed for Gonzo. Unlike traditional gauntlets that cover the entire hand, these are crafted to maximize the power of Gonzo's fist, with the back of the hand covered and the fingers left exposed. When Gonzo channels magic into the gauntlets, they glow, amplifying his strength and creating a combination of physical and magical power that enhances his punches. Gonzo, thrilled by the results, immediately rushes off to test the gauntlets. Next, Ed presents a delicate rapier for Tia. She's initially surprised by the weapon's design, expecting something more conventional. As she holds the sword, she's amazed by its beauty and craftsmanship. When Tia draws the sword, it shimmers with a faint silver sheen, and as she activates some simple wind magic, the blade is enveloped in a pale green glow, swirling with wind. This sword is specially crafted to amplify spirit magic, allowing Tia to use wind magic with the blade, something she finds extraordinary. Ed explains that the sword's magic allows her to attack with the required attribute at any given time, making it versatile and powerful. However, he cautions that the sword is fragile and will need enchantments to increase its durability before it can be used in battle. Tia, deeply moved by the thoughtful design of the sword, promises to take care of it. Holding it close, she thanks Ed for his craftsmanship, and Ed, pleased with the results, smiles at her reaction. The chapter ends with a sense of fulfillment for Ed, knowing that his work has not only produced fine weapons, but also strengthened his bond with his companions. Through his skill and dedication, he has crafted tools that will serve them well in the challenges ahead, and Tia's heartfelt appreciation solidifies the significance of his efforts. The morning starts with Ed unveiling his last creation, a shiny sword made of mithril, albeit without a blade. Tia, Alexis, and Gonzo are curious, and their reactions are filled with surprise. The sword, more of a square stick than anything else, raises questions about its function. Ed explains that it's too dangerous to try indoors, so they decide to go outside and test it. They find Gonzo, who is enthusiastically practicing with the armament Ed made for him, while Tia tries out her new rapier with spirit magic. As Ed and Tia are excited about the new weapons, Ed presents his mithril sword, which transforms when he calls upon it. The sword grows silver feathers along one side, adjusting its blade's angle to suit different needs. Tia is in awe of its functionality, while Alexis questions its design, concerned about the fragility of such a thin blade. Ed explains that it's meant to be used with care, and its thinness makes it fragile, but it's designed for use in everyday situations, even if its durability is a concern. Tia, eager to test the sword, expresses frustration when she realizes it's not yet enchanted for durability. Unlike Gonzo's armament, which is ready for use, Ed's mithril sword requires magic to enhance its strength before it can be wielded without risk of breaking. Tia runs off to ask Alexis for help with the enchantment, while Ed takes a moment to test the sword's sharpness by cutting through coal. His experiment shows that the sword, despite being fragile, can still cut through materials with ease, leaving a smooth cut. While inspecting the blade's performance, Ed realizes that it can withstand about 10,000 uses before the material starts to weaken. His calculations show that the sword can be effective for a substantial amount of time, but its fragility means it's a temporary solution, not a permanent one. Alexis, who has been watching Ed's progress, comments on the sword's brilliant design. He remarks that Ed's skills rival his own, but Ed remains humble, downplaying his abilities. Alexis, however, presses him on his true intentions. He wonders if Ed is truly satisfied with just making a makeshift sword, or if he has bigger ambitions in mind. Ed admits that his ultimate goal is to create a sword that can cut through anything, a goal Alexis finds audacious but achievable, given Ed's talent. Alexis is intrigued by Ed's work, recognizing that Ed's sword, though incomplete, is already more advanced than anything he's seen before. He wonders if Ed's limitations are due to time and materials, acknowledging the challenges Ed faces in creating the perfect weapon. Later, Alexis takes Ed aside, asking him to meet privately later that evening. There's something he wants to discuss, but only with Ed. Alexis walks away, leaving Ed puzzled. Ed is left wondering what this meeting could be about, and the unanswered questions linger as he's left in the wind, contemplating what Alexis has in store for him. The Ultimate Weapon, Settling the Score with the Past, by Hinori Takumi and Nomori Shimatsuka. The battlefield was silent for a moment. Then a tremor. Dust and mana filled the air like ghostly shouts of wars long gone. Amidst the chaos stood a lone figure, bruised, determined, and very much alive. His name was Ed. No one expected much from a human like him. Not in a world where gods, demons, and ancient heroes shape destiny. "You mere humans," they scoffed. "What can you possibly do?" But Ed had been forging something powerful, something different. His weapon wasn't a legendary blade passed down through holy bloodlines. It was something he crafted with his own hands, a pair of gauntlets alive with pulsing energy. Forged not only from steel, but from his own mana, his own will. "Concentrate your mana in your fists," his mentor had said. Ed did more than that. He unleashed it all at once. In an instant, a flash of blinding light surged across the battlefield. His arm, engulfed in energy, roared like thunder incarnate. Shockwaves cracked the earth. Opponents scattered, stunned by the explosion. Even his allies were left speechless. Did he blow himself up? Someone gasped. But no, Ed stood, breathing heavy, steam rising from his gauntlets. The power hadn't destroyed him. It had transformed him. Watching nearby, Gonzo-sama clenched his jaw. Ed's gauntlets weren't just tools, they were the ultimate weapon, forged from conviction. Even without a holy sword, even without a destined hero's blessing, Ed had turned the tide. "Why is this happening?" cried one of the fleeing enemies. "He's too strong. This isn't possible." A spy dashed into the shadows, whispering urgently, "This information must be reported to the Demon King." If they could just escape underground, they might live to tell the tale, but Ed was already 10 steps ahead. Elsewhere, the blade of Tia shimmered with newfound power. Her sword, once ordinary, now glowed with magic. She had learned to infuse it with spirit energy, giving her attacks elemental might. Rock bind, a technique designed to trap enemies in stone. Simple in theory, devastating in execution. "Is this really my weapon?" she murmured, awestruck. But Ed saw through everything. "Too bad," he said with a half smile. "You can't deceive me, Tia." Even then he recognized her potential. She wasn't just a wielder of borrowed power. She had forged her own strength, just like he had. Yet behind the glow of victory, something darker stirred within Ed. A truth he hadn't spoken, a burden he still carried. "Even if I die and am reborn," he whispered, "I won't forget. My regret lingers on." Someone from the future, a man cloaked in mystery, emerged in his memories. A swordsman with a message of atonement, carrying a blade that shimmered with silver wings, ready to unfold in 12. It was a reminder, the past never dies quietly. The future never comes without cost. Later, when the smoke cleared and the battle was truly over, a familiar voice broke the silence. "Ed, are you all right? Is it really over?" He nodded, his body weary but standing. "Yeah, it's over." The enemy's body lay still, so still it almost seemed untouched. But the truth was in the cut, a wound so precise, so clean, it had slipped past even the opponent's awareness. He may have fallen without even realizing he'd been struck. Tia stared, stunned. "That cut, it's frighteningly smooth." Ed glanced down at the sword in his hand, hastily made, nothing like the grand blades of legends. Yet it had carved a new chapter in history. "It's just a makeshift weapon," he said humbly. But Gonzo-sama disagreed. "There's no craftsman alive," he said, "who could create weapons like yours, Ed. That title, Ultimate Weapon, isn't just for show." Even in victory, questions lingered like smoke in the wind. "Who are you really, Ed? And what are you hiding?" Ed didn't answer. He only looked toward the horizon, because deep down he knew this wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. It all began with a simple object, deceptively so. A mithril staff, plain in appearance, yet humming with a mystery that couldn't be ignored. "This seems a bit unexpected, don't you think?" someone had muttered, eyes narrowed. It wasn't just a staff. It was something more, something far beyond what it seemed. Just like the sword. That sword, yes, that sword, held secrets that whispered louder than steel. A makeshift solution, they said. Crafted in haste, its blade would shatter with the lightest blow. But even so, it had been forged with the exiled skill of Master Smith. Not magic, no, this was something deeper. It transformed through sheer craftsmanship, reshaping itself into an absurdly sharp blade. Wings of mithril spread from one side, forming an impossibly thin edge on the other. With 12 wings, the blade reached its peak. Such ingenuity from a single glance? As expected of the hero, someone breathed. Typical goal, Ed admitted. "I thought about making a sword that could cut anything." But, Alexis pushed. "Well, the materials," Ed confessed, shrugging. "Most of what I used came from other worlds. I didn't have enough. I had to be careful. A temporary fix, a substitute for something greater. And yet it glowed with brilliance. Repairs loomed, walls shattered, the city in disarray." "We've got a mess to clean up," Alexis said, serious now. "Come to my room. There's something I want to discuss." Confused, nervous, Ed followed. The room was quiet, tense. "Why are you looking at me like that?" Ed muttered. "I have a separate request," Alexis said simply. Then came the ask. "I want you to forge me a sword." Ed froze. "I will bow my head as many times as it takes," Alexis said, eyes burning with resolve. "Please, forge a sword for me." Ed blinked. How far are you prepared to go?" "I must not falter," Alexis said, voice steady. "I bear the future of every single person on my shoulders. I exist to give hope, for peace, for the future. That is my purpose." The hero's eyes, noble, proud, desperate, searched Ed's. "You weren't given a choice," Ed muttered. "This was forced on you, and yet, you still stand here." "I chose to be their hero," Alexis said. Not because I was chosen by God, but because I am a true hero. God had to choose me. The moment cracked open like thunder. Then came the truth. The holy sword, it wasn't real. Just a brilliantly crafted fake. Ed had known it the moment he held it. This may be the ultimate blade crafted by human hands, he said slowly, but it's still an imitation. Exactly, Alexis whispered. We've dispatched teams everywhere, searching, but the true holy sword remains lost. If the demon lord finds out, Ed didn't need to finish. I believe you can forge a blade even greater than this one, Alexis said. You flatter me, Ed said, almost amused. But even if I went all out, using Master Smith, it'd still be a fake. It would be our fake, Alexis said, built from everything you've learned, please. And so the hero bowed. Desperation met craftsmanship, will met flame, pride met purpose. You feel the need to prove yourself worthy, Ed said, because you know you're special. Exactly, Alexis replied. Then, I'd like to find the true holy sword, Alexis declared. Ed's gaze flicked to the Akashic compass. I have a few secrets too, Alexis added softly. Sorry for lying. Ed looked at the compass. It wasn't just for demonic beasts, was it? No, I guess I couldn't call myself a man if I didn't respond to your determination. And with that, the deal was struck. The price? Reasonable, at least for someone carrying the fate of the world. Please, Alexis said again, bring me to the sword, whatever it takes. And Ed agreed. No longer a tool, no longer an exile, he stood as one of them, one of the hero's true party members. Gonzo and Tia welcomed him without question. Alexis smiled. You may call me by name, he said. In the silence that followed, Ed nodded. I look forward, Alexis said, to you showing me what a true hero looks like. And just like that, Ed, once cast aside, once forgotten, had become a true equal member of the hero's party. It only took one day. That's what they kept saying. Awed voices echoing through the newly restored city square, eyes wide as they admired the wall that once stood broken, now perfectly repaired. And not just repaired, enhanced. It looked amazing, sturdier than before, as if it were imbued with mortar. Spirit magic, they whispered. The kind only Tia could wield. Tia stood a few steps back, arms crossed, surveying her work with quiet pride. The people cheered, grateful beyond words, presenting a mural crafted by the entire city in her honor. Please accept our heartfelt gratitude for what you've done for us, they cried. But she just smiled gently. Is that so? Well then, before I go, what do you think? Are you leaving already? They begged. You're welcome to stay a little longer. But Tia had already turned to the horizon. The journey wasn't over. The compass, Akashic, ancient and cryptic, only pointed the way. It never said how far. And their next destination? The real holy sword. Their path took them far, across towering mountains, deep forests, and mist-shrouded valleys. For 3 long months they wandered, through treacherous landscapes and dead ends. The misty forest they finally arrived at was different, alive with illusionary spirit magic. Even Tia had to pause. The mana here? Something's not right, she murmured, eyes narrowing as she traced the unseen patterns. Are you sure this is the right way? Asked Ed, glancing back nervously. Yes, Tia nodded. Don't worry. Eventually, they reached the heart of the forest, a spring so pure it seemed untouched by time. There, resting in silence, was the hero's strength, the holy sword. And Alexis was the one meant to draw it. At first he hesitated. Why me? He asked, but deep down he knew the answer. He'd always been told he was special. His mother had whispered it into his dreams. One day, she said, the world will know your name. So Alexis stepped forward. Hands trembling, heart thudding, he grasped the sword. Nothing. He pulled. Again and again. Still nothing. Others tried, even Ed. The sword wouldn't budge. Then something changed. Magic, old sacred, surged through the air. A voice echoed from within the blade, ancient and commanding. Art thou truly a hero? In a flash, Alexis's mind was pulled away. Visions swirled. Memories, possibilities, regrets. He saw the child he once was, longing to be something great. He saw dreams twisted by expectation. He saw a future where he failed, where the hero's name meant nothing. And a question lingered in the darkness. Do you truly believe you're worthy of calling yourself a hero? Inside the vision, golems emerged, guardians of the trial. The others fought to protect him. Ed, Gonzo, Kara, they stood tall, shielding Alexis as he battled not monsters. I admit it, Alexis said softly, still gripping the sword in his mind's world. I wasn't a true hero. I was just playing the part. But then he remembered their faces. Tia, Ed, everyone who had fought beside him believed in him, not because he was born great, but because he kept going. "I will surpass your truth," he said defiantly, "and create my own. I am a hero." With that cry, the holy sword shone like moonlight. Magic surged, and with one final pull, it came free. Gasps echoed around the clearing. The sword was dazzling, elegant, otherworldly, as if the moon itself had been carved into a blade. Alexis stood tall, light dancing in his eyes. "With this, I could break through the impregnable demon world," he whispered, "and reach the demon lord." Tia stepped forward, a rare smile crossing her face. "Then let's do our best." Lunarisha, a mage of refined grace, bowed slightly. "It's a pleasure to meet you again, Hiro-sama." And just like that, a new chapter began. With the holy sword in hand and his comrades beside him, Alexis truly became the hero he was always meant to be. The moonlight shimmered, hope stirred, and the journey continued. The moon hung low, casting silver light across the vast and silent battlefield. Alexis stood at the edge of a cliff, his eyes heavy from countless nights without rest. Behind him, the weary remnants of the party slumbered beneath hastily pitched tents. Gonzo stepped forward, his shadow a towering silhouette against the firelight. "Alexis, it's about time you took a rest as well," he said with a nod. "I'll take over the night watch." With a grateful smile, Alexis stepped aside, placing his trust yet again in the steadfast warrior. They had come far. From the moment they crossed into the first of 100 strange and treacherous worlds, they'd known there was no turning back. Now at the doorstep of the Demon Lord's realm, fatigue clung to them like armor long worn. Volumes 0 to 0 of their tale had already reached the townsfolk, the pages filled with praises and awe. Yet here they stood, on the cusp of an ending not yet written. Tia and Cyan lay close together, visibly exhausted. "They must have pushed themselves too hard," Alexis murmured, watching over them with quiet pride. Gonzo chuckled. "Indeed, we can't expect that kind of resolve from everyone, but when the time comes, I'll show you I can protect you with these muscles." Their laughter faded into solemn thought. "Are you prepared?" Alexis asked quietly. "To make it through?" Gonzo didn't flinch. "Of course not, but it's not about being ready, it's about being willing." Soon movement stirred in the woods. Gonzo tensed. "Hey kid, have you found the prey?" "They're in my way," came the reply. "Too many of them." With a shout, Gonzo leapt forward. "Step aside, Ed, I'll handle this." A blinding light erupted. Secret technique, full moon scraper. The ground split beneath the fury of the moonlight sword. In the chaos, Tia dashed toward a distant target. "Tempest Ray," she cried, her magic lighting up the night. "Unless you're a hero," someone warned, "you'll never make it through here." And yet, make it they did. Wading through the forest that separated humans and demons, they found brief peace in the stillness. "Let's take a break," Ed said, glancing at Alexis. "Are you okay?" "I miss your cooking," Alexis admitted with a grin. "All we've had lately is preserved food." Ed laughed. "A home-cooked meal is motivation enough for me." 6 months had passed since they'd first met. It felt like years. Together they had defied the odds, Alexis rising to become the strongest existence in their world, a true hero. And yet with power came consequence. One of the conditions to return to the white world was exile. 6 months of comradeship, then goodbye. "I can't bridge the gap," Alexis thought, "between everyone who stays and me who leaves." Even as they fought side by side, his path diverged. "What happens after we defeat the Demon Lord?" he asked the others. "I'll return to my hometown," said one. "I want to travel the world," said another. They all dreamed of peace, of normalcy. "What about you, Ed?" someone asked. "What do you want?" He smiled softly. "A home, somewhere. Maybe even to share memories of our travels someday." As laughter rose among them, promises were exchanged. "Don't disappear without saying goodbye," Tia insisted, pouting. "We're comrades. That bond will never be broken." "I promise," Alexis said quietly. "This is the first of 100 farewells. I'll make sure to defeat the Demon Lord, no matter what." He clenched his fists. "Even if I can't see it through to the very end this time, I'll believe there's something waiting beyond that." Later that night, with the camp still and silent, Gonzo looked over Tia. "She's sleeping normally," he noted. "Is something wrong?" Alexis sighed. "I'm just not ready to let go." But there was no turning back. "This is my final job before being exiled. We finally made it." And there it stood, the edge of the demon world. With one final strike, the full moon scraper cut through the darkness, illuminating their fate. But history whispered its warning. The hero's party was wiped out the first time. This was the reason why. And now, as the shadows gathered once more and the demon's laugh echoed from the depths, "Welcome," it said. "I've been looking forward to this. Welcome, hero and his companions." Those chilling words, laced with malice and glee, echoed across the desolate battlefield, signaling the arrival of a long-awaited reckoning. The Demon Lord's army had risen in full force, an unending wave of darkness standing between the hero and the destiny he'd been forged to meet. Their journey through the harsh terrain of the demon world had left bruised and weary, but not broken. Every step had been laced with sacrifice, every breath drawn under the weight of an confrontation. And now, the moment had come. Despite their fatigue, they stood tall. They had earned their place here. The demon commander sneered, amused at their defiance. "Can you truly face us in your exhausted state?" he taunted. But it was not empty bravado that steadied the hero's hand. It was conviction. Amid this eerie prelude, rumors whispered like wind through the ranks. Strange reports spoke not of the hero's mighty blade, but of a black-haired baggage carrier, a seemingly unimportant figure, who had defeated one of the Demon Lord's elite scion. The notion alone sent ripples of confusion through the enemy lines. Could such power truly hide in plain sight? Enraged by the rumors, vengeance flared. "Revenge for Scion Sama!" the demons cried. Yet the hero only stepped forward, holy sword gleaming in hand, his voice calm. "So, if we want to move forward, we have to go through you, right?" With no more words needed, the demons launched into chaos. "Kill them all!" The ground trembled beneath the stampede of monstrous feet, and battle erupted. "This is just the warm-up," one companion shouted, blades spinning with deadly grace. "Leave it to us," another echoed, casting magic that lit the skies like fireworks against the night. Earth shattered, moonlight danced through the sky, and spells with names like Lunarisha and Earth-grave fruit tore into the oncoming horde. But the demons had a strategy: exhaust the hero. They hurled themselves into the fray, willing to die if it meant weakening him before the final battle. Yet they were not prepared for what awaited. Even the elf among the hero's party cast relentless waves of high-level spells, their magic more devastating than anything the enemy had been warned about. Despair took hold. Why is their defense so strong? Why can't we stop them? They had underestimated the resolve and the power of a party bound not just by duty, but by unshakable loyalty. Just when it seemed the tide might turn in the hero's favor, the battlefield itself rebelled. "Destroy their footing," a demon sorcerer screamed, and from the cursed soil Jurmungandr rose, a monstrous serpent of legend. The earth cracked, the ground beneath the heroes gave way, and the party plummeted into darkness, separated, isolated, vulnerable. "What the hell? A giant snake?" came the panic cry. But panic wouldn't serve them now. The air was thick with tension, the very fabric of fate trembling as the final battle loomed ever closer. Amid the chaos and war-torn lands of the demon world, the once unshakable heroes party stood at a crossroads. The laughter had faded, the jokes replaced by the weight of decisions no warrior should ever have to make. And at the center of it all was Ed, the quiet one. And now he stood ready to walk away. "I'm not joking, Tia," he said softly. Everything rides on this." His voice was steady, but inside him churned a storm of uncertainty. Could he truly find a loophole in the twisted rules set by a god who... Was he ready to gamble everything, his future, his world, for a chance to return home? He didn't know, but he knew one thing. Something had to change, and so he made the choice. "I'm going to be exiled," he said. Again. The word echoed the silence, striking hearts harder than any blade. Tia stepped back, eyes wide. Gonzo clenched his fists, barely holding back. Alexis, ever the symbol of strength, stood frozen. "I respect your choice," Alexis finally said, his voice gruff with emotion. "You always said you wanted to return home. If this is your path, then I won't stop you." But not everyone could accept it. "You're wrong," Tia cried. "Ed wouldn't. He wouldn't abandon us like this." Gonzo turned, his massive frame shaking with rage and confusion. "Ed, are you really okay with this?" "I'm not," Ed whispered, "but I'm relieved. I have to try." And with that, the gears of fate turned. Ed handed over a heavy rune-inscribed pack. "Everything you need is in here," he said to Gonzo. "Old man, I'm counting on you." The hero's party watched in stunned silence as he turned his back on the path they had carved together, stepping toward a future unknown, driven by hope and desperation alike. But the world was not about to let him go so easily. "We will eliminate you here," came the shrieking voice of the Demon Lord's army, their grotesque forms bursting from battles. Magic blazed, swords clashed, and the battlefield lit with chaos. "Get back!" Gonzo roared, summoning a barrier just in time. "We fight so that Alexis can reach the Demon Lord." Yet in the confusion, something shifted. Ed faltered. The weight of what he was leaving behind struck him like a blade to the chest. "Will you exile me?" he asked, trembling. Alexis raised his hand solemnly. "From the hero's party, I hereby exile you." And just like that, Ed was gone. But not forgotten. As the clock ticked down, 10 minutes until his return to the world he came from, his thoughts lingered on what he had left behind. The smile he wanted to protect, the friends he would die for, and the battles they still had to fight. Tia screamed, her voice raw with pain. "Let me go! Ed is going to die!" But Gonzo held her fast. He made his choice. Don't waste it. The truth burned in their hearts. They weren't just fighting for the world anymore. They were fighting for each other's dreams. And on the front lines, Alexis raised his holy sword, now fully awakened. "This ends here," he said. "No more regrets. No more delays." From the depths of the demon world, the final war had begun. And the price of peace was everything. When we first met Ed, there was a quiet melancholy that lingered around him like a fog. It wasn't something he said. No, Ed was a man of few words. But sometimes, just sometimes, when he was working on our weapons, he'd pause and stare out the window. His eyes would soften, like he would laugh and play in a world he no longer belonged to. And in those to whisper, "I'm the only one who doesn't belong here." Even if it meant dying, I wanted to prove him wrong, desperately. Because the place Ed yearned for wasn't some distant heaven. It was something far more profound, far beyond anything I could begin to imagine. "This is as far as you go, hero," came the voice of Grashgear, the stone sentinel of the ancient path. His hulking form blocked the narrow canyon ahead, power radiating from his armored limbs. "Don't believe for a second you'll get past me." But I did believe it. I had to believe it. "Let me down. Doctor, I'm okay now." I stood on my own, sword trembling in my grip, not from fear, but from resolve. Grasker grinned. "A plan befitting a spineless hero like you, huh?" His blade swung. Mine met it. Sparks flew. Magic surged. "Manifest thyself in the name of Lunarisha," I chanted, heart pounding. "Spin, whirl, and sweep away my foes." The sky answered. "Stormbringer," I roared. The winds gathered, funneling through the viridian half-moon spire, crackling with elemental force. Spirits of the four seasons sang in harmony, their voices lighting up the twilight. Alexis appeared beside me, silver blade glowing. "We're going to defeat the Demon Lord," she said. I nodded. We kept moving forward, for Ed, for the dream he watched from the other side of the window. But things took a turn. Dodo, the ground shook. "The barrier's been breached," someone shouted. "Only a single opponent? Then who? What is this man?" In the blink of an eye, Grasgeir was down, killed with such speed it defied logic. He hadn't expected it. None of us had. "How is a mere porter this strong?" a voice shrieked. He wasn't the hero, and yet the power he unleashed was beyond comprehension. Blood boiled, literally. Steam hissed from his body as Blood Engine, the forbidden skill, activated. It increased his strength 100-fold, but at a deadly cost. His heart would explode 10 minutes later. "Ignored his wishes, turned back. To stop you from sacrificing another weakling," he muttered. And then, "Gravity erase!" I floated midair. My momentum vanished, stolen from me, caught. "Destruction Nova," he whispered. The world burned. And still he wasn't done. "You're finally dead, huh?" he muttered to his fallen foe. Farce is over. Yet the war wasn't. Chaos erupted among the ranks. "We must prioritize killing the hero. Have you forgotten the Demon Lord's orders?" Arguments broke. Authority crumbled. Giganath was sent to pursue me, but I wasn't going anywhere. "I already told you, you're not going anywhere," I shouted back. Magic clashed. Blood flew. Voices screamed. "Why aren't you dead yet?" "Because I couldn't be. Not yet." "Bloodblade," I cried. Again and again. 100 years of tempering, of repeating the same path led to this very moment. Orbit reflector. No matter where I went, I was still an outsider. But that's exactly who I was. And I had chosen it. The way I lived, the future I desired. It was mine. Mine to fight for. Mine to bleed for. "I misjudged him," a voice whispered. "That man is our greatest threat." As the fight began, a minute from the portal's close, I screamed into the void. "I won't leave this world behind." Not until I brought everything back with me. Not until I ended this future of despair. Broken land like a heavy curtain drawn at the close of a tragic play. He stood there, alone, battered and bleeding, yet victorious. Not because he was the strongest, not because he was the chosen hero, but because he was the one who stayed behind. They never knew his name. He wasn't part of the prophecy, not even a knight with a title. To most, he was nothing more than a porter. True warriors. But behind every hero, there's someone bearing the unseen burden, and for him, that weight was willingly taken. Regenerate, a non-licensed doctor without bandages, one of the enemies had scoffed, right before falling to his blade. He hadn't been able to understand how a man with no title, no formal power, could possess such overwhelming strength. But it wasn't strength that won the war. It was resolve. The enemies came, wave after wave. Some laughed, some panicked, all fell. And when it was done, when the demon lord had been blasted into the sky and the last of the generals lay defeated, he collapsed on one knee, struggling to breathe through the pain. His body screamed. The cost of his exiled skill, blood engine, was almost due. He had 10 minutes to live, 10 minutes left to tie loose ends before his heart would burst. But he was calm. I did everything I could, he whispered, wiping the blood from his eyes. He knew Alexis and the others would be fine now. That cursed world, that ruin of despair they'd come from, was gone. The old man Gonzo would protect the next generation. Alexis would keep moving forward, just like always. And Tia, she could finally stop hiding in the forest. There was peace. As the final seconds ticked down, he left a sign behind, one trace of his presence, so they'd know he had existed. That should do it, he murmured, setting it gently on the ground. All right, I guess I'm at my limit. His vision faded. Take care, Tia. Good luck, Alexis. Then light. World transfer complete. He opened his eyes in the white world, dull and empty, just like every other time. The sword was crap, the armor shabbier than ever, and the craving for Prince Manju buns hit him immediately. He sighed, shaking his head. Guess it's back to the beginning. Every cycle, he came back. Every time, things reset. But this time, something was different. A book dropped on his head. Again, typical. But this book wasn't white. Its pages chronicled the life of Alexis in stunning detail, from childhood tantrums to battles fought. It even captured subconscious thoughts the hero himself would never admit. Then he saw it. His name. Oh, there I am, he whispered, heart-catching. His role, his sacrifices hadn't gone unnoticed. From the margins of history, he had been written into legend. We had a fourth comrade, the hero had declared before the king. If it weren't for him, we wouldn't have been able to challenge the demon lord. The kingdom searched, but no trace of him was ever found. Only the weapons he left behind and the stories whispered by those who knew. He became enshrined as the divine emissary, a being sent by the gods to save the world. And now, standing before a bookshelf with 99 empty spaces, he smiled. This is the future I chose, he said softly. Time to create a happy ending for the remaining 99 worlds too. The cycle continued. But now, it was his story. In the kingdom of Notland, where peace had finally returned after years of strife, legends echoed through the halls like whispers of the past. It was a kingdom that had once been the stage for the fiercest battles and the most unlikely friendships. Among the stories told in tones by children at bedtime and recited in the grand libraries of scholars, none stirred the heart more than the tale of Alexis, Tia, Gonzo, heroes. Let's play as the strongest party of heroes, Alexis had cried, brimming with boyish enthusiasm. He always was the hero, dragging along his friends with wide-eyed determination. Gonzo, ill-tempered but loyal, Tia, fierce and free-spirited, and Ed, always Ed, the quiet, reliable one, always content to stand in the shadow of Alexis's light. Again and again, Ed played the unsung role, despite being recognized as Alexis's best friend. They beat the demon lord. Easy peasy, they joked back then. After 100 worlds and 100 victories, they thought they'd seen it all. But fate doesn't reward heroes with rest. One day, Ed vanished, spirited away to somewhere far beyond reach. 10 years passed. The world healed, the kingdoms rebuilt, and Alexis became a king. But Tia, she never stopped searching. On a brisk evening, Tia returned to Notland by sea, her cloak fluttering in the wind, her eyes glinting with stubborn hope. She burst into the castle. all warmth and fire, her reunion with Alexis charged with old camaraderie. "You've really got this king thing down," she teased. He chuckled, but the weight behind his crown was evident. He had changed. But she hadn't, not where it mattered. Tia's mission had never wavered. She had traveled across continents, sought out forbidden texts, studied lost magic, all to find the one soul missing from their circle. "I found where Ed is, where his soul is," she said, voice trembling with emotion. Alexis' heart skipped a beat. Alive? Could it be? But it wasn't simple. Ed wasn't anywhere they could reach, not in this world, not in any they knew. Perhaps above the sky, beyond the sea, or across the veil of life and death. Teleportation magic could reach him, maybe. But the cost? Immense mana, a leap into an unknown abyss with no promise of return. Tia, ever the reckless light in the dark, insisted on doing it alone. "This is my own selfish wish," she said. "If I cause any more trouble for others, Ed would be mad at me." Even as Alexis urged caution, she was already deep in research, granted access to the kingdom's most secret archives. She combed through dusty tomes and scholarly theses, some with absurd titles like "Muscular Biceps Can Produce Magic," others with terrifying possibilities like "On the Practical Implications of Using External Mana to Cast Large-Scale Spells." Days passed. She found clues. She found his sword, the silver-winged blade, its aura still whispering his name. "Just one more step," she muttered, so close and yet impossibly far. Her hands trembled as she held one of the wings of Ed's sword. "Why did you have to go somewhere so far away?" she whispered. She would not stop. She couldn't stop, not until she found him. And thus, the strongest party of heroes lived on, not just in history, but in hope, in one woman's unyielding promise. In the glow of the archives where magic and memories intertwined, lay Tia prepared for her final leap into the unknown, to bring back the comrade she had never once let go of in her heart. Heroine rises once more, stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever. Her name, Lady Tia. "Good morning, Lady Tia," echoed through the halls as the brilliant young adventurer burst into the room, brimming with energy. The advisors and guards blinked in surprise, barely keeping up with her pace. She had found something. "Look, Alexis! I found something amazing," she exclaimed, barely able to contain herself. In her hands was a discovery that changed everything. A theory, a glimmer of hope, the first true step toward finding Ed, the one who once meant everything to her. Even as her allies prepared for a formal meeting with His Majesty, Tia had other plans. She couldn't wait. Not now. Not with a lead like this. She clutched the research article tightly and dashed off again, her mind already racing with the implications. "She's always like this," someone chuckled fondly, energetic as ever. Tia's breakthrough centered around a radical magical theory, one that proposed the creation of a teleportation gate, something that could bridge even the most unreachable places. The demon world, for instance. A place riddled with danger and miasma. A place that held secrets, perhaps even the key to finding Ed. "I'll do it myself," Tia resolved. "Alexis and Gonzo have their own destinies to fulfill. I can't burden them anymore." She wasn't acting out of pride, but necessity. 10 years had passed since the journey began. 10 long years of chasing leads, fighting battles, and refusing to let go. She still held Ed's memory close, every decision powered by that bond. But now, it wasn't just sentiment. It was science, magic, possibility. Meanwhile, Alexis and Gonzo gathered at the royal court, discussing Tia's sudden disappearance and the astonishing thesis she had left behind. Gonzo, ever the honest brute, frowned. "She doesn't have to shoulder this alone," he said. "She may be following her destiny, but we share the same dream, to see Ed again." Their conversation revealed the gravity of Tia's find. A spell theory that bypassed the need for multiple mages by utilizing external mana, a pool of energy that surrounded all life. With the right technique, even a single mage could perform spells of immense power. "This changes everything," Alexis admitted. "Magic technology will leap forward by a century." But where had Tia gone? Rouge, a scholar involved in the research, was cornered for answers. After some playful banter and a request to double her research budget, she explained that the most viable location to test the teleportation theory was one rich in mana. There was only one such place, the demon world. A realm feared and avoided, teeming with creatures and ancient energy. But it was perfect. "That's where she went," Alexis whispered. "She's trying to do it." The others exchanged looks. Tia had always been brave, reckless even, but now they understood. She wasn't just chasing a dream, she was building a bridge to it. And so the world held its breath. Tia, somewhere deep in a forbidden realm, was racing against time and nature itself. Her hands steady, her heart burning, she whispered to herself, "This time I won't fail. I'll bring him back." The sky cracked with soft light as Alexis stood at the edge of the world he once saved. The flames of the old campfire still flickered in his mind. Memories of friends, of battles, of promises whispered under starlit skies. Now he had just one wish, to find Ed. And for that, he would abandon everything, his crown, his kingdom, and perhaps even his future. "Alexis, what's gotten into you?" The voices had cried, astonished by his decision, but it was no whim. This was something he had to do. Tia was already gone, setting out on a journey to the demon world, her determination blazing brighter than ever. Alexis knew waiting any longer would mean losing her trail, and the chance to reunite with Ed would vanish into the wind. The news of his decision shook the court. The planned cleansing ritual, a massive event meant to stabilize the eastern continent, was postponed. Advisors barked their concerns, warriors questioned his motives, and even the king, Reginald, stood conflicted. But Alexis, the hero who had once borne the weight of the world, now chose to chase a selfish desire, the wish to see his friend again. Yet he wasn't alone. Gonzo, his loyal comrade, stepped forward with a grin. "I haven't claimed my reward either," he said, ready to join Alexis on his reckless quest. Even Rouge, with all her fire and reason, sighed and gave her blessing. "Fine, have it your way," she snapped, hiding the worry in her voice behind a sarcastic huff. With the teleportation spell completed and supplies gathered, Alexis and Gonzo took flight. Trees below glowed with stored mana, the landscape dotted with Gantt trees that pulsed with magical energy. They soared toward the smoke rising in the distance, the unmistakable sign that Tia had arrived. And there she was. Tia's eyes widened as she stepped from her home, surprise melting into a warm smile. "Alexis? Gonzo? You're already here?" She hadn't expected them this soon. The letter she sent had barely left her hands, but they had come, guided not by a message, but by something stronger, their bond. The home she'd built from the mana-absorbing trees was small but powerful, a base for the teleportation network she designed to reach Ed. The system was brilliant, an interlinked grid using the mana from the roots of enchanted trees, forming a colossal magic circle. It was ready. The path was clear. That night, under a blanket of stars, laughter filled the air again. They shared stories, recalled the battles that had shaped them, and promised to see each other again, no matter where fate pulled them. Tia whispered into the firelight, "I just want to see you one more time." Her heart trembled with the weight of goodbye. When morning came, Alexis stood ready, bracers forged by master craftsmen wrapped around his wrists, a healing pendant glinting at his chest. "Take care of the castle," he told coolly. "Thank you for everything." With a final embrace, he stepped into the magic circle. Light enveloped him. Then chaos. The mana surged violently. The world twisted. Memories not his own poured into him, strange yet familiar, visions of a life unseen, fragments of Ed's past. His soul screamed for connection, for understanding. "Please, Ed," he begged. "Reach out your hand. Make my wish come true." The portal cracked. Reality blurred. Then he saw him, Ed, that face, that voice, that warmth. "I finally found you." Alexis whispered, the journey, the battle, the sacrifice, all worth it for this moment. And there stood Tia, tears in her eyes, the reunion blazing like a sunrise over a new beginning. This was no dream. This was their future.